Hello everyone and welcome to Whisky Wednesday. Today we're going to be talking through a small series and it's from Old Forester. It's a series I wanted to do for a while, but we've just been waiting on certain bottles to arrive, me being able to get hold of certain bottles, and going to a presentation held by Jackie Zykan, who is the master blender at Old Forester. She did an event in Manchester a couple of weeks ago, got to meet her, ask a few questions, get loads of facts and loads of knowledge. We won't put it all on the table today. If you have any direct comments, we can answer those in the comment section. But we're just going to cover the brief history of Old Forester, what it is, what it's about. So the only bourbon brand to ever distill and bottle booze before Prohibition, during Prohibition, and after Prohibition. Other distilleries still existed, but these guys were going throughout. Founded by George Garvin Brown, it was one of the first distilleries, I can't think of a better way to phrase this, but began to take itself very seriously very quickly. The first whiskey, or bourbon I should say, to be put in glass. You can't imagine how expensive that would have been in sort of like the latter part of the 1800s to actually put something in glass rather than just having it in a keg in a pharmacist or on the side of a bar. So a very expensive thing to do. Seals over the top of the bottles to guarantee quality. Signatures, everything's signed off. They have relations to the Bottling Bond Act in 1897 and their development through history. And the company itself now is still ran or like chaired up by George Garvin Brown's descendants, which is amazing. So it's still family run, it's still very integral to the running of the business. Everything's done in Louisville, everything's based in Kentucky, nothing is sourced outside of it whatsoever. And this is the basic one. This is the 80 proof, 40% ABV style. I'll correct you when I say that, it's 86 proof, it's 43% ABV. I thought I said 80 over my corner. But this is their intro product, this is their entry product. And it's really cheap. Like in England, it's like £25 a bottle. So it's in that Buffalo Trace territory, Wild Turkey, some Jack Daniel's products. So it's super approachable. They're not trying to price anyone out. It's just, it is what it is. And 25 quid, you can't really turn your nose up at something you've not tried at that. So if you haven't tried it, I encourage it anyway. What is it? It's a 72% corn base with 18% rye and 10% malted barley. Higher rye content than most, some kick around anywhere between sort of 7 to about 10. But with this being 18, we should expect a drier style, much more tannic, slightly more bitter. And to get rye whiskey right in general is difficult, but to make sure the rye content in a bourbon is well put together, that does take time, and it does take a lot. And this has been something that they've been going through since their birth. So we'll smell it, we'll taste it, and then we'll talk to you more about what that kind of gives off to us for £25 a bottle. Very fruity. You'll have to pardon my cultural kind of ignorance at this point, but in the UK we have something called Ribena. It's like a fruit cordial. You add water to it and you make it like a fruit drink. It has this really big hit of like blackcurrant and blackberries and all these kind of brambly fruits. There's loads of that kicking around. Every time you smell bourbon, you should expect vanilla, you should expect caramel, maybe sometimes some coffee notes and some pineapple notes. This is more kind of juicy, ripe fruits. There's a bit of toffee, there's a bit of kind of thick, kind of luscious caramel, but it's not the lead point. There is much more of this kind of brambly, sweet juiciness coming through everything. Begins to get slightly earthy as well. Something I've been finding a lot now with bourbon is like getting kind of herbaceous notes from it. Things like dill. Bits of basil, those kind of sweet, almost minty elements to it. And with a high rye content, there's always going to be that kind of eucalyptus mint, almost toothpastey-like sensation. But there's not too much of it just lingers in the background, but loads of juicy ripe fruit. And then there's this little bit of kind of dill, basil, kind of sagey thing going on. But yeah, wonderful nose, especially for the money. And then we'll dive in and we'll taste it. Very delicate, very silky, but with a lot of flavour. This is the first bourbon I've tried today. It's the first alcohol I've had today, so it's going to impact my tongue more than what it would have if we were doing 2 or 3 in a row. But it starts off very lovely and soft and sweet. And then instantly the rye makes its presence felt. It almost runs down the middle of your tongue and splits into 2 at the back of it. Comes round to the front again. More dill, green notes, but like soft and peppery, black and white pepper, slight barrel influence, all with this kind of lovely light toffee, light caramel thing. It's not really heavy on the sweetness, which I like. The balance of kind of light and dark is very well put together with this. I'll try once more. Same again, if not even more delicate now on the second try. But even now, after swallowing it, that delicate rye spice that just kind of buzzes around the back. You can see why this is such a popular product with bartenders. This in old fashions, using it in a Manhattan maybe in place of a rye whiskey because the spiciness is still felt and the dryness is still kicking through everything. And I love bourbon. You know, every single one of you who watches this channel knows I love bourbon to like the nth degree. But sometimes they can be too sweet and they lose that fun and the buzz which the other grains provide. This doesn't. It's wonderfully balanced all around. It's incredible value. The taste is great. And I think it's on par with some of like my favorite standard bottlings, things like Maker's 46, Wild Turkey 101, Blanton Single Barrel when you can get it. I do think it's in that level, even though it's, it's a smaller bottle, it's a smaller company within a bigger company, but I think it's an 8 all day. It's really good quality, it's really well made, and I love the fact they've got their entire history documented all over the bottle and all over their website. So thank you very much for watching. This is Whiskey Wednesday, I'm Phil. This is Old Forester 86 proof, and that is an 8 out of 10. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you all next week.